What's up, you guys? So in this video, I wanted to discuss the concept of genetic drift, which is any random change in the allele frequencies within a population. Before I get into that, however, I wanted to first review some concepts that we have already previously discussed. For starters, an allele is one version of a gene, which is oftentimes represented as an uppercase or lowercase letter. An allele frequency represents how often that allele pops up in a population relative to all of the alleles for that particular gene. If we consider the example from our last video, a population of 25 mice would contain 50 total alleles for the fur color gene. If out of those 50 total alleles, 30 of them represented the brown fur allele and 20 represented the black fur allele, we would say that the allele frequency for the brown fur allele is 30 over 50, or 0.6, while the allele frequency for the black fur allele is 20 over 50, or 0.4. Furthermore, if the allele frequencies within a population change from one generation to the next, we can conclude that that population is evolving. But what necessarily causes the allele frequencies to change from one generation to the next? Well, there are actually a few possible causes for such a change. For example, natural selection or survival of the fittest might lead to one allele being selected for and the other allele being selected against. This could in turn lead to an increase in the allele frequency for the more fit allele and a decrease in the allele frequency for the less fit allele. Natural selection, however, is not the only driving force for changes in allele frequency within a population. Events like natural selection follow a pattern and are to some degree predictable. This pattern would be survival of the fittest, where the fittest alleles will ultimately increase in frequency over time. Other events might change the allele frequencies within a population in a random way that lacks a predictable pattern. For instance, suppose you had a population of green and brown beetles within a forest. Suddenly, a forest fire breaks out, killing all of the beetles within the range of that fire. In this case, the beetles from the surviving subgroup would only be able to interbreed with other beetles from that subgroup, leading to allele frequencies changing from the original population to the following generation. This change, however, was not due to a predictable pattern like survival of the fittest, but rather a chance event known as genetic drift. Genetic drift comes in two forms, the bottleneck effect and the founder effect. The bottleneck effect is when some sort of chance event, like a natural disaster, wipes out part of the population, allowing only the survivors to reproduce, which thereby changes the allele frequencies from one generation to the next. This is like the example previously described with the beetle population. The founder effect, on the other hand, refers to when a random colonization event leads to a change in the allele frequency of a small subgroup population. Consider our earlier population of green and brown beetles. Suppose a small subgroup of this population was blown away by the wind and they ended up landing on a distant island. These beetles would only be able to interbreed with other beetles within that subgroup, and the resulting beetle population would likely have significantly different allele frequencies when compared to the original population. So in summary, genetic drift refers to any change in the allele frequencies within a population that occurs by chance. This is different from natural selection, which does not occur by chance, but rather through the pattern of survival of the fittest. Genetic drift also comes in two forms, which are the bottleneck effect and the founder effect. The bottleneck effect leads to a random allele frequency change by some sort of natural disaster, while the founder effect brings about a change through a random colonization event. That's it for this video. If you have any questions, be sure to leave them down below in the comment section. If you like this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe to my channel for more videos to come.